Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the C Squared podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. It's International Master Sagar Shah. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly. Sagar, first of all, you are just an inspiration with everything you have achieved for the last quite a few years by now. It wasn't always easy, but it felt like you came along at right about the right time with the right initiatives and an incredible passion for the game, but a passion also for building up a community. And you've done just that with ChessBase India, just an incredible effort. You and Amruta as well. And I want to firstly start with your beginnings. You are also an international master, so obviously you've had quite an illustrious career as a chess player as well. But at some point, you realized that you want to do something different, and you carved out this path for you. Tell us how ChessBase India started.
Yeah, thank you, Christian, for this introduction. Also, hi, Fabi, and thanks, guys, for having me on the podcast. Um, I think I started chess when I was around 10 years old, not so young. My father taught me, and I was perhaps not that quick in growing up during chess, which is why I read a lot of books at that phase. And I didn't have a very permanent trainer or something of that sort when growing up. So books really helped me back then. I was not improving quickly, but I believe it helped me in the phase when I started commentating or writing about chess. That was very useful. And I I think my life's phase can be divided into the parts where I began playing chess, which was in 2000. I kept improving until 2008. I was around 2200 or so. Then I met Amruta in one of the tournaments. She was also playing there. Um, and then we started our relationship. And I think chess became such an integral part of my life that even though I finished chartered accountancy, which is like a pretty decent degree in India, um, I never had the doubt that I would continue doing chess. So in 2014, Amruta and I got married. I was still roughly around 2300 rated, and then um, we went to Spain in that year, and I finished my GM title. Sorry, IM title. GM title still remains a dream. I finished my IM title. I reached 2468. Won a decent tournament called Dresden Open. Made my first GM norm. Also finished my second GM norm next year. So everything was heading towards sort of becoming a GM. Maybe I was training a bit some players in India. Had these coaching related things going on. But I think I really enjoyed writing, and I used to submit some of my articles to ChessBase. Frederick Friedel, who got my first article, which was on my marriage, saw some potential in me and started helping me get better. This was also around 2014. So a lot of things happened there. I got married. I started writing for ChessBase. I was also improving at chess. But it was clear to me that somehow my passion was in writing about chess, creating content. Back then, not so much video, but more written stuff. I used to go to tournaments and write as well as play. So I remember Qatar Open where I played in 2015, which was a very strong event, and I faced all 2600 GMs there, and I would play the game, come back to the room, write a huge report on ChessBase, and that would take 5 to 6 hours. And this started becoming very difficult to sustain both these things. Which is why at some point we had to make this switch. And by that time, ChessBase India had begun, because in India there was not that much coverage about chess. The newspapers didn't have the space to cover chess as a sport, because cricket is very, very popular here. And we thought that there are many, many things happening in chess which need coverage. So that's how we started with a Facebook page called ChessBase India. And this is how it began. And this was 2015, late 2015, and so on. And then things rolled on.
But what was the vision at that point? Because obviously, right now, everybody knows the powerhouse that India became. But in 2014, 2015, sure, you had Vichy, of course, a mentor for the young generation. You had Hari Krishna, I think it was perhaps the second best rated player in the country. But you didn't have as many strong players. Perhaps you could count the GMs on both of your hands. Right now, you guys have more than 100 grandmasters, and that only happened in the last decade or so. What was the vision when you first started ChessBase India?
Yeah, I think one of the things which Amruta always said is that, we would play tournaments and there was no one to take any pictures or anything. So it came more from a personal thing that there is something lacking. And then we realized that there is news everywhere. For example, I remember 2015 World Cup. The highest performing Indian was Sethuraman, who reached round three by, I think he beat Mamedyarov back then.
Did he beat Anish as well? Is that, am I, or was it
This was 2017. He was
2017?
very,
Yes.
very close to beating him, but then Anish
Yeah.
did beat him. And these were the news back then, like, with it crossing 2700 in 2017. He was the youngest ever Indian to do so. Hari Krishna, who actually equaled Vishy Anand's, uh, I mean, surpassed Vishy Anand on live rating for that one day when Anand was playing in the Candidates 2016, lost, and Hari Krishna did well somewhere. So he was 2770 back then. So all these news were like there. We traveled to Moscow for Vishy playing in the Candidates. At that point, a lot of news did revolve around Vishy because he was the only player playing in super tournaments per se. But we always had this um, interest in identifying talents. So in 2014 World Juniors, which was at that point won by Lu Shanglai, Wei Yi was there, Vladimir Fedosiev. It was in India. A little Nihal Sarin was playing there, and a little Prag was playing, and we interviewed them back then. They were 9 and 10 years old, uh, and I think this started to sort of become very interesting for people. This youngest grandmaster record, back then, it caught the fancy when Prag was actually growing. Everyone was like, okay, will Prag break Karyakin's record, and so on, and newspapers started picking it up from what we were covering. So I believe that at first Prag and Nihal were two youngsters whom everyone wanted to follow, and perhaps with their growth along with the other talents as well, ChessBase India started to grow. And also, India did not have these softwares of ChessBase available, or the books that are needed. So there was piracy here. You could see that people were purchasing books which were xeroxed, or softwares which were burnt on discs and so on. And I thought maybe it's possible to have something which is cheaper than what exists there, because clearly the spending capacity of Indians wasn't that high, which is why everything that we've done, either with chess based products or with books and so on, we have this concept of PPP, or the purchasing power parity, where you cannot have the same prices in India that exist in Europe or USA. So that was also one way to set up the business, where we didn't have to have any investors or something, because of the goodwill that was created by ChessBase and the product that was needed. We started having some income, and we could build our team.
Yeah, that's very cool, and I that was sort of my next question because I did not know the story of the name itself, ChessBase India, and the partnership. Obviously, everybody knows ChessBase and what ChessBase stands for, but they stand for the brand of software that all the chess players are using. Now, ChessBase India, it almost became its own brand. Do you guys still have any sort of connection with them, or are you sort of separated at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we always started with our own company, which was incorporated in India. But ChessBase was amazing to trust us, because when we began, they were like, okay, you can use our name, you can set up whatever you want, and every time you sell a product, the X% would go to them. So this agreeing to a different price for India and its surrounding countries like Bangladesh or Nepal, Sri Lanka, and also giving us the right to sell there, but just letting us do what we wanted to, because the vision always was to sort of grow Indian chess, to grow the chess in the country. So we started off with several things, but as and when the needs arose, is when we built that. So just to give you an example, at some point we realized that India does not have many good tournaments happening. So there were people who wanted to go to Europe to play, and they couldn't afford it. So we started something called ChessBase India Power, where one person would travel with like 10 kids and go to an event, go to like for 2 months in Europe, and help these kids maybe get their norms, or play in these strong tournaments. So it was all about understanding what was the need there. At some point, we were also managing some players' Facebook accounts, or back then, Instagram wasn't that popular, trying to put out social media content for them. So, whatever was needed at that point, we were doing. And then eventually, the YouTube channel picked up, which was completely unthought of. Like, it just started one fine day. We had like 800 subscribers, and we went to this tournament in World Cup 2017 in Tbilisi, and it was one entire month. And we started uh, doing interviews, doing coverage on ground. And I remember there was this one video where Magnus Carlsen was beaten by Bu Jiangzi back then, and it got to like 500K in like a few days. And we realized, oh my God, like here there's some potential to make revenue, to cover events and so on, which was, we never knew such opportunity existed. So that's how the YouTube channel began. We reached 5,000 subscribers at the end of that event, which was amazing.
It's interesting. You mentioned Frederick and also some of the young Indian players at the time, like Nihal and Prague. And I remember seeing Nihal and Prague when they were like very little kids. Maybe they were like 10 years old or something. And they were playing in Isle of Man. I can't remember quite which year it was, but like one of my early memories of hearing about like the current Indian talents was Frederick. In 2019, I visited ChessBase and of course I had heard the names of Nihal and Prague, but then he was like, I just saw this new kid Gukesh is playing, and that was the first time I'd heard the name. So okay, I thought, yeah, it's another talented kid, but yeah, we'll see what happens, right?
And what about your personal ambition? You're just 11 years, 6 months old. What do you want to do when you grow up?
I want to become the youngest world chess champion.
You want to become the youngest world chess champion, yeah?
Yeah.
So that was you just brought up that memory in my mind when you mentioned Frederick and also the young Indian players.
I think Frederick has been someone who's very good at spotting talents. Mm, I mean, just players, but also he recognized that I had this knack of storytelling, so he spent a lot of time helping me improve my writing skills. So I would have like I would send an article, and he would make these two columns correcting my English, which was terrible at that time. So he really laid the foundation for me becoming a better writer and so on. And whenever he spotted a young talent, like as Fabi mentioned, Gukesh, Nihal, Prag, he would instantly try to talk to them, or send some softwares to them just to motivate them. and that was very cool. It would be kind of inspiring for these youngsters when he would speak with them and tell them stories about Gary or about Vishy, about Magnus, and I think Frederick spent a lot of time with all of them. So
And maybe I'm mistaken, but he's good friends with Vichy, right? Vichy used
yes.
to visit their studio in Germany. Fabi, did you ever do anything for ChessBase? Were you having, like, let's say, a
Well,
working relationship
yeah.
at that time?
I mean, that time I mentioned in 2019, I was doing some video series on Ruy Lopez for ChessBase. I spent about 5 days, and I think Frederick at the time was kind of retiring in that period, so he was moving away from his work in ChessBase. But we had some conversations, and that's when he mentioned Gukesh and showed me some photos of training and that sort of thing. But yeah, I do remember that he was also good friends with Vichy for a long time, and they
Yeah.
had some close connection. But from my point of view, I only really did the one time with chess-based film because I'm not so much, making instructional content. But I did do the one series with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it actually. I had seen it entirely back then.